Hello students, it's time to learn a new opening, and today we're going to go over the Vienna game. The Vienna game starts with the moves e4, e5, and then knight c3 is officially the Vienna game. Knight c3 is less popular than knight f3, but that doesn't mean that the Vienna is not a good opening. I myself use it a lot, and what I'm going to do in this class is I'm going to mention the three main variations, but I'm going to focus on the one that I play myself and that I enjoy playing. So I'm going to show you the main ideas, how to use it, and at the end I'm going to play a live Blitz game for you to see how I use it. Let me start from here. So after knight c3 there are three main lines, and one of the most popular lines actually explains the reason why we play knight c3 rather than knight f3. So what knight c3 does is that it keeps this pawn flexible. So if the black pieces did something like knight f6, we can do pawn to f4. This is a gambit that basically offers this pawn for free in order to get more control of the center and develop your pieces quickly. I'm not going to go deeper into this line, but it's good for you to know that it exists. If you feel like this is something you want to go deeper into, you can actually do some more research, and in the future I know we're going to go over it here. The other line that you could do as the white pieces is bishop to c4. As you can see, you develop the bishop to a good position, similar to what we do in the Italian game, and this is another line that you could look into. Now, the one that I like to play myself is pawn to g3. This is considered more strategically and a little bit different, and to be honest, the reason why I chose this variation to go into is not only because I play it a lot, but because I think it's different to what you've seen so far. So this is what we call the fianchetto, and the fianchetto is basically when you push the pawn in front of the knight one step, either g3 or b3, and then you put the bishop in it. So that's going to be the fianchetto. So it's good that you're exposed to this idea of the fianchetto and how to use the fianchetto bishop. So after g3, the idea is just for you to know where the pieces go. So this is going to be more like a system. Your pieces, for the most part, are going to go to the same place, and if you really get the hang of it and you use it enough, you might become an expert in this opening. And there's one more thing that I like about it, which is the fact that it can be used against many defenses that the black pieces choose, not only when they do pawn to e5. And you're going to see what I mean later on. Let me just explain the main ideas first. So after g3, let's say they go knight c6. This bishop is going to go to g2 like we said, so that way we justify g3. And after something like bishop c5, this knight is going to go to e2. So keep in mind, this is where your pieces go. Whenever you have to develop this knight, it's going to be to c3, this knight is going to go to e2, this bishop goes to g2. After that, it's just a matter of castling, and after d3, we are ready to develop our last minor piece. Let's say they go bishop e6. It's time to develop this bishop. Now, this bishop could go to g5. That's a very nice pin. It could also go to e3, challenging this bishop. It's going to be a matter of taste. So after you play it enough with e3 or g5, you're going to see the one that you like the most, or maybe you like both. If you go bishop e3 and they take, now you're going to get a semi-open file for your rook. You get more control of the center. So this is a nice position, and the same thing if you pinned the knight. Now back here from the very beginning, I'm going to do the first moves again, e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, and then let's say that this time they play a little bit more aggressive and they actually do pawn to d5. I recommend just trading on d5 and get rid of that tension in the center, and after they take, you continue developing your pieces. So bishop g2, if he takes, well, we just take back, and of course we're not going to take here with a d pawn, because after they take, we have to take with the king and we cannot castle. It's not ideal. So we just take with the b pawn, and this is offering us a semi-open file now for the rook. So let's say they continue. It's time to develop the knight. If you remember from what I just showed you, this knight typically goes to e2. Is it horrible if you go to f3? No, but let's keep it consistent, knight e2. This knight is not here anymore, and it's a little bit different, but let's just bring it to e2 if it makes sense. So they castle, we castle, let's say they go knight c6, and now time to develop this pawn. We just put it on d3 as we did in the other line where we had the knight on c3 and the pawn on e4, and now we're ready to develop this bishop. So this is already move number 9. The opening It's almost over. You get a nice position. From here on, we just play chess. And what I was saying before, guys, if you play this often, you're gonna get this position sometimes. Sometimes you get it without the trade on c3, but you're going to get so used to it that you're going to really play these openings way better. Like, I know whenever they take on c3, I typically bring this rook to b1 to put more pressure on b7 and things like that. So these are things you're going to learn as you play more. Let's say they go, just to show you all the way, so let's say they go bishop e6, you could just develop this bishop to e3 and you get again a comfortable position. And I'm going to find someone to play a game 3 minutes 2 second bonus. That's going to be enough time to play a nice game, but I don't want to make the class too long. So I'm going to hit play. Hopefully I get the white pieces. Alright, so we have the white pieces, pawn to e4, and pawn to e5. There you go, so lucky day. Now, knight c3, you know what I'm going to do regardless. Look, bishop b4. Now, I could just do g3. Some people like to do knight g to e2. We have to do it anyways. We protect the knight, but just to keep it consistent, I'm going to do g3. See, knight f6. Now, just in time, my bishop gets to g2 to protect the pawn. Now, if he takes, I take back, and I still have a defender on the pawn. You know what, let me actually sounds and put the sounds on. So d6, now I put my knight on e2. And okay, so now this move, let's pay attention to this move. I'm supposed to castle here, but I have to pay attention to his moves first. I don't have to do this, but whenever I see some of his pieces in my territory, I like to kick them out. So h3, and now when he moves back, I'm going to castle, and I continue developing my pieces. This is already move number 6. Okay, so he went back, I castled, and now he took. I was going to say I could do the same thing for that with that bishop, but there was no rush. This move here, d takes, makes a lot of sense because I already opened my bishop. But again, just to keep it consistent, I'm going to take here, and I get these double tap pawns which are not that nice, but they give me a semi-open file. He made a mistake, he blundered, he took a pawn, he didn't realize my bishop was here. Or maybe he had something in mind. But that's another thing that I wanted to say, guys. As you play with these fianchetto ideas, you're going to see how many people forget about the bishop here. So it's hard for them to see it. I'm going to bring my bishop back to safety. I didn't need to, but let me see. So now again, d3 is the move that we know. But you could do something like d4, be more aggressive. I'm just going to, again, keep it consistent. This is where my pieces are supposed to go. Alright, so you see, he's not letting me go to g5. Well, I'm going to go to e3. We talked about this move. And this is move number 12. Opening is over. Just play chess. So look, semi-open file. My rook likes to be on the semi-open file. And I'm putting pressure on that pawn. What's he going to do? Okay, so he's not letting us take. Time to connect the rook. So when I move my queen up, I connect the two rooks. And guys, this is of course a game that is easy to play because we're up a piece. So all I need to do is now either go and attack the king because I have more pieces to attack with, or I could simplify the game. And simplifying the game means trading pieces of the same value. If I trade my rook for his rooks, my queen for his queen, my bishop for this bishop, my knight for this knight, I'm going to end up with an extra bishop left. And that's going to be very easy. My bishop will take his pawns, and that's the idea behind simplification. Now, time to attack. I think I'm going to just go pawn f4. Now, if this pawn is traded, I get another semi-open file for my rook. My rooks are active, his rooks are just not doing much. Alright, he doesn't want it. Let me see, I talked about simplification, so this is a good opportunity, but whenever you do this fianchetto bishop, you really want to keep it for as long as you can. Unless you're going to get something significant, you don't want to give it up. So let me just take here, just to open up my rook. Okay, he wanted to take. Fair trade, that's convenient for me, and now I'm protecting my pawn. He took, well, I have to be careful here. So if I take, I have to be careful with a skewer. So maybe it's not a good idea to take, is it? Well, let me just do this. Let me think. Well, I think I'm going to double out my rook. So I'm going to put my rook here, and the idea is to put the other rook behind it. So I have two rooks putting pressure on that semi-open file. He hasn't developed this bishop. He hasn't connected the rooks. Alright, so I'm still going to do it. And notice how I'm playing quietly, even though we started off with 3 minutes. We have the increment, but that's the idea, that we play slowly and we think about our moves. So I'm already thinking about using this diagonal, because he's pretty weak, so maybe we could put the bishop on this square, put pressure on the king. So let's see. I'm also thinking I have a pin, so if I took this pawn, I could get the rook. Of course, it doesn't make sense to sacrifice my queen, but if I had another piece that could take, that would be nice. Alright, you know what? Let me just start with, let's attack that king. Check. Let me put pressure on this rook. Now I have to be careful with this bishop taking this pawn. It's hanging, so this is a hanging piece, and I'm just going to protect it with my king. This move with the king, this is something that is thematic here. I know it because I've played this opening many times, so I know what to do when my pieces are in trouble, and that's what's going to happen to you with any opening you choose. You're going to play it so much that you're going to become an expert in it. Alright, so he has 16 seconds. Let's see if we can put him in checkmate before he runs out of time. Okay, so let's try to... Should I bring my knight into the game? Yeah, let's do that. I'm doing that if he takes. I could take the bishop because the pawn is pinned, but I'm also looking for ways for my knight to get into the game. So he has 8 seconds, he's gonna have to play this really fast. Okay, so we take then. Okay, so he's trying to take here. We get it. And my knight comes into the game. See, I'm protecting and I'm getting active. Yeah, so he ran out of time, and even though I couldn't put him in checkmate, guys, the main objective of this class is for you to get out of the opening safely. And if you follow these moves, this system that I'm showing you today, you're going to be fine. So this was the Vienna game, but more specifically the fianchetto variation with G3. If you have any questions, if you want me to expand more on it, let me know and I'll be more than happy to help you with that. With that said, I will see you next class.